Anthony Richard Tony Pulis is a Welsh football manager and former footballer who was most recently manager of Crystal Palace. Pulis obtained his FA coaching badge at the age of 19, followed by his UEFA licence aged 21, making him one of the youngest professional players ever to have obtained the qualification. His son, Anthony, is a professional footballer and played at Stoke. Pulis had a 17-year career as a defender where he played for Bristol Rovers, Newport County, Bournemouth and Gillingham. He also had a short spell in Hong Kong with Happy Valley. Pulis took his first steps into management at Bournemouth, where he was a player coach and then Harry Redknapp's assistant. He then took control when Redknapp left the club. He then went on to Gillingham before leaving in 1999 after a dispute with chairman Paul Scully. Pulis then had unsuccessful spells at Bristol City and Portsmouth before being appointed manager of Stoke City in 2002. He guided Stoke through a tough 2002-03 season, avoiding relegation to the second division on the final day of the season. He spent 2 more seasons with Stoke before being sacked by Stoke's Icelandic board for failing to exploit the foreign market. He spent the 2005-06 season at Plymouth Argyle before returning to Stoke along with Peter Coates. After narrowly missing out on a playoff spot in the 2006-07 season, he guided Stoke City to the Premier League in the 2007-08 season by finishing runners-up in the Football League Championship. With Stoke amongst the favourites for relegation upon their return to the top flight after a 23-year absence, Stoke went on to comfortably survive and finished in 12th position. Pulis made history during the 2010-11 season as he guided Stoke to their first FA Cup final after beating Bolton Wanderers 5-0 in the semi-final. The Potters lost the final 1-0 to Manchester City but had the consolation of qualifying for European football. In the UEFA Europa League, Stoke were drawn against Croatian side Hajduk Split and after 2 legs ran out 2-0 winners. After beating FC Thun, Stoke were handed a tough group containing Besiktas, Dynamo Kiev and Maccabi Tel Aviv, which Stoke managed to progress through, finishing in second position. City's reward was a tie against Spanish giants Valencia, but despite putting up a spirited second-leg performance, Stoke went out 2-0 on aggregate. The 2012-13 season saw Stoke make little progress and Pulis left the club by mutual consent on May 21, 2013. Pulis returned to management on November 23, 2013, joining Crystal Palace on a 2.5-year contract. He guided Palace away from relegation, to their highest Premier League finish of 11th in 2013-14, which earned him the Premier League Manager of the Season award. He left the club, however, shortly before the start of the subsequent season. Playing career: Pulis began his career at Bristol Rovers, where he joined their School of Football Excellence in Eastville from Newport YMCA. Pulis cites his time at Eastville as an excellent grounding, with his Rovers teammate and friend Ian Holloway also making it in football management. "We learned our trade at a football club with really, really good people who had old-fashioned values. I truly believe that it's because of the way we were brought up back then that we have managed to go on and achieve what we have done in the game. The basic principles were drilled into us, both on and off the pitch. Nothing was given to us and we had to work very, very hard for everything we got." Pulis made 85 league appearances for the Pirates before leaving to join Hong Kong club Happy Valley Armed Forces the Americas in 1981. He returned to Rovers the following year and made a further 45 league appearances before moving to his hometown club Newport County in 1984. At Newport, Pulis became a popular member of the squad and his former county teammate David Giles believes Pulis was always destined for top-level management. With County struggling financially, Harry Redknapp subsequently signed Pulis at Bournemouth. He spent 3 years at Dean Court before joining Gillingham in 1989. However, Pulis returned to Bournemouth a year later to take up a player-coach role. He made 16 appearances, scoring 1 goal, while in this role. Managerial career: Bournemouth, he was promoted to the position of manager in 1992, following Harry Redknapp's decision to leave the club for Premier League side West Ham United. Pulis spent 2 seasons, 1992-93 and 1993-94 at Bournemouth, Both seasons saw the Cherries finish in 17th position before moving on. Gillingham. He then joined Gillingham in the summer of 1995, whom he managed for a further 4 seasons, turning a team that had struggled at the very bottom of the Football League into a promotion-winning one in his first season, and laying the foundations for the club's eventual elevation to the First Division for the first time in their history. In the 1999 Second Division playoff final, the Gills were 2-0 up with less than 2 minutes left, following goals by the prolific partnership of Robert Taylor and Carl Asaba, only to see Manchester City score twice, the equaliser in injury time, and after that win a penalty shootout 3-1. Following the defeat, Pulis was controversially sacked by the club amidst claims of gross misconduct. He later brought a £400,000 court case against Gillingham chairman Paul Scully for unpaid bonuses, which was settled out of court in 2001 for £75,000. Bristol City. Pulis was appointed manager of Bristol City in July 1999, prior to the start of the 1999 2000 season. A previous long stint at bitter rivals Bristol Rovers meant that Pulis' appointment was met with mixed reception. He made several reasonably big purchases including Steve Jones and former Rovers player Peter Beadle, but his popularity hit an all-time low only 6 months into his term as manager, and when rumours surfaced of a switch to Portsmouth, home fans chanted for him to leave. He moved on to Portsmouth shortly, where Milan Mandaraya had recently taken over as chairman. Portsmouth. In January 2000, he left Bristol City to become manager of Portsmouth. Pulis took Portsmouth from the bottom 3 to mid-table but lasted only 10 months in the job before being sacked and being replaced by Steve Claridge in October 2000. Stoke City. He was then out of work for 2 years, before the resignation of Stoke City's manager Steve Cotterill early into the 2002-03 season led to Pulis being given the job that November. Pulis immediately found himself in a relegation battle, and it looked likely that the club would be relegated back to the second division, only a year after being promoted. However, Pulis completed the signings of striker Ada Kinby and goalkeeper Mark Crossley, on loan from Crystal Palace and Middlesbrough respectively, who helped turn around the club's bad run. Stoke avoided relegation on the final day of the 2002-03 season with a 1-0 win over Reading at the Britannia Stadium, with Akinbiyi scoring the only goal of the game. Pulis rates Stoke's survival in 2002-03 as one of his best achievements in management. In the following season, 2003-04, Pulis guided the club to an 11th place finish. Tensions grew between the manager and chairman, Gunnar Garslason, in the 2004-05 season. Pulis was frustrated with his lack of transfer funds, which led to Dave Brammer and Steve Simonson, both of whom were free agents, being his only significant signings prior to the start of the season. However, Pulis did add Anthony Pulis, his son, and Lewis Buxton to his squad in January 2005. The disagreement between Pulis and the club's Icelandic ownership culminated with Pulis parting company with the club on June 28, 2005. He was sacked for failing to exploit the foreign transfer market by then-chairman Garslason. Following his dismissal, Pulis bemoaned the club's decision to sell Ada Kinby to championship rivals Burnley, stating, "We sold our top scorer and never replaced him." Dutch manager Johan Boskamp was named as Pulis' successor on June 29, 2005, only a day after Pulis was sacked. Plymouth Argyle. After taking over as manager at Championship side Plymouth Argyle, Pulis managed to turn around a floundering team, to one that with the right investment could challenge for a top-half playoff place in 2006-07. The turnaround coincided with the loan of West Ham United central defender Elliot Ward, and the club improved even further with the permanent signing of Lilian Mullis from Sheffield United. Plymouth Argyle ended the season 14th in the Championship table. Second spell at Stoke City. In May 2006 he was the subject of an approach from former club Stoke, who had recently parted company with manager Johan Boskamp, following Peter Coates' takeover of the club. Plymouth reportedly turned down this approach. However, on June 14, 2006 it was announced that Pulis would be returning as manager of Stoke City. Pulis bolstered his squad for the 2006-07 with the permanent additions of Danny Higginbotham, Ricardo Fuller and Vincent Parr. Copyright Ricard. His most notable coup was the loan signing of Lee Hendrie from Aston Villa. Hendrie's arrival along with the loan signings of Salif Dior, Andy Griffin and Rory Delap coincided with a change of form for the Potters following a poor start to the season. Stoke went as high as fourth in the table prior to the January transfer window. Pulis was named Manager of the Month for April 2007, after Stoke picked up 11 points from 5 league games. This unbeaten run lifted Stoke to 7th in the table, on equal points with 6th-place Southampton. However, a 1-1 draw against Queen's Park Rangers on the final day of the season led to Stoke finishing 8th in the Championship. Pulis sold several key players prior to the 2007-08 season. Club captain Danny Higginbotham was one of a number of players to depart, joining Sunderland for £3 million. However, Pulis utilised the loan market again, signing 5 players on loan, including Ryan Shawcross from Manchester United. With a few of these loan signings joining on a permanent deal in the January transfer window. Pulis guided Stoke City to promotion to the Premier League on the final day of the season. It was to be Stoke's first top-flight campaign in 23 years. Upon promotion, Pulis admitted the need to strengthen his squad, but he also made it clear that the club would not go over the top with spending. Stoke's biggest summer signing was that of striker Dave Kitson, who joined from recently relegated Reading for £5.5 million. Kitson was followed by the captures of Sayola Njana from Wolverhampton Wanderers for £3 million, Abdoulaye Faye from Newcastle United for £2.25 million, Amdi Faye from Charlton Athletic for an undisclosed fee, Andrew Davis joined for £1.2 million from Southampton, defender Ibrahim Asunko signed for an initial £2 million fee from Reading, and former Potter, Danny Higginbotham rejoined his former club from Sunderland for an undisclosed fee. Pulis was also prepared to move players on, including his son Anthony Pulis and striker John Parkin. After a promising start to the season, Stoke's mid-season slump left them as one of the favourites for relegation. However, the January additions of Sheffield United's James Beattie and West Ham United's winger Matthew Etherington helped rejuvenate their season. The £3.5 million signing of Beattie was widely considered to be one of the most prudent purchases in English football that season. Stoke dipped in and out of the relegation zone until March, when a good run of form lifted them above the bottom 3. Their 2-1 win away to Hull City on May 9, 2009 secured their Premier League survival. Pulis has received much praise for his work with Stoke on a limited budget, in particular his achievement of keeping them in the Premier League. He was mentioned as a possible candidate for the 2008-09 Premier League Manager of the Year award. The following season saw Stoke consolidating their Premier League status rather than facing relegation, and also saw them reach the quarter-finals of the FA Cup with victories over York City, Arsenal and Manchester City before losing to Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Stoke finished 11th in the Premier League with 47 points, a place higher and 2 points more than last season. Pulis made his 300th appearance as Stoke manager with a 3-0 win over Blackburn Rovers on February 6, 2010. The result was Stoke's largest top-flight win for nearly 24 years after a 4-0 win over Wolverhampton Wanderers in 1984. Following criticism from Fulham player Danny Murphy over the way Pulis sets his team out to play, Pulis decided to release a 6-minute statement defending the management staff and club as well as questioning Murphy's agenda. After a number of controversial refereeing decisions that have gone against Stoke, Pulis has advocated the introduction of a relegation system for referees to stop poor decisions. He became only the third manager in Stoke's history to guide the club to the semi-finals of the FA Cup after a quarter-final victory over West Ham United. They then went on to beat Bolton Wanderers 5-0, making Pulis the first manager to guide Stoke to an FA Cup final. Stoke lost the final 1-0 to Manchester City with Yaya Toure copyright scoring the only goal. By reaching the final, Stoke qualified for the 2011 Euro-12 UEFA Europa League, after Manchester City confirmed a place in the Champions League. Despite the defeat, chairman Peter Coates believes that Pulis is Stoke's greatest ever manager. In the Europa League, Stoke were draw against Croatian giants Hajduk Split. Stoke won both legs 1-0, thus becoming the first Stoke side to win a two-legged European tie. Pulis signed former England internationals Jonathan Woodgate and Matthew Upson on free transfers to strengthen his centre-backs following the departure of Abdoulaye Faye. He took charge of his 800th competitive match in August 2011. On transfer deadline day, Pulis signed Cameron Jerome from Birmingham as well as Tottenham duo Peter Crouch and Wilson Palacios. Crouch at £10 million broke the club's transfer record for the fourth successive season. In the group stages of the Europa League, Stoke were drawn against Besiktas, Dynamo Kyiv and Maccabi Tel Aviv, and after a 1-1 draw against Kyiv in December, Stoke qualified for the knockout stages. Pulis described the achievement as a milestone in the club's history. Stoke were handed a glamour tie against Spanish giants Valencia in the round of 32. He reached 400 matches as Stoke manager in January 2012. Stoke lost both legs against Valencia 1-0 and exited the Europa League. In the second leg in Valencia, Stoke took a largely reserve side and named just 4 substitutes, which included academy captain Lucas Dawson. This attracted much criticism of Pulis by supporters, but he defended his choice. Stoke finished the 2011 Euro 12 season in 14th position. In the summer of 2012, Pulis was again busy in the transfer market, letting Ricardo Fuller leave, bringing in a number of new midfield players. In came American duo Jeff Cameron and Maurice Edu, Scottish paired Jamie Ness and Charlie Adam, Wolverhampton Wanderers winger Michael Kightly, Blackburn Rovers French prospect Stephen Ntsinzi and former England striker Michael Owen. Stoke made a steady start to the 2012 Euro 13 season despite a tough opening set of fixtures. Pulis has stated that he would like to see out the remainder of his managerial career at Stoke and that he is starting to change his side's style of play. Stoke went on a 10-match unbeaten run from November 10 to December 29, conceding just 7 goals in the process, giving Stoke one of the best defensive records in Europe up to that point. However, Stoke made a poor start to 2013, picking up just a point in January, and a frustrating transfer window saw just 2 new arrivals, American winger Brek Shear and England keeper Jack Butland. Performances and results remain poor in February, and Pulis came under heavy criticism from supporters after an uninspiring home defeat against West Ham United. Victories against Queen's Park Rangers and Norwich City saw Stoke avoid the threat of relegation, and they finished the 2012 Euro 13 season in 13th position. It was a season of little progress at Stoke, and Pulis left the club on May 21, 2013 after a meeting with chairman Peter Coates. Speaking after his departure, Pulis revealed that he was disappointed by Coates' decision but accepts his reasons. He was replaced by another Welsh manager, Mark Hughes. Crystal Palace. On November 23, 2013, Pulis was appointed manager of Crystal Palace on a 2.5-year contract, taking over from Ian Holloway. His first win came on December 3, 2013, a 1-0 home win against West Ham United. During the January transfer window, Pulis made 5 signings, all of which came on transfer deadline day. He signed Tom Ince on loan from Blackpool, while permanently signing Joe Ledley from Celtic, Scott Dann from Blackburn Rovers, Jason Punchin from Southampton and Wayne Hennessy from Wolverhampton Wanderers. The new arrivals helped Palace to become a more solid team defensively, and they went on a run of 5 consecutive victories, which included wins over Chelsea, Cardiff, Aston Villa, Everton and West Ham United. This run of form earned Palace mathematical safety and saw Pulis named as Manager of the Month for April 2014. Palace finished the 2013 Euro 14 season in 11th position with 45 points, which saw Pulis named as the Premier League Manager of the Year. Shortly before the start of the subsequent season, however, Pulis left the club by mutual consent. Style of management. Pulis has a reputation within the game for achieving solid results on small budgets and also maintains the proud record of never being relegated as a manager. Throughout his managerial career, Pulis has used the long ball style of play. Personal life. Pulis was born in the Pill area of Newport, in Wales. He was raised there, with his father, Angelo, a steelworker, and his mother, Jean, as well as his brothers and sisters. Growing up in Newport, he supported Manchester United as well as attending matches at Cardiff City and Newport County. One of his brothers, Ray, also used to play for Newport and is currently chairman of Welsh non-league side Pulis FC. His son Anthony is a professional footballer who plays for Orlando City. Pulis's former Bristol Rovers teammate Ian Holloway is Anthony's godfather. He also has a daughter, Stephanie, whose partner, Jack Swan, is an amateur footballer who played for Bournemouth Poppies. His grandfather was born in Aor 1/4 Angstrom Bar in Malta before he moved to Wales. Pulis was awarded an honorary degree at the University of Staffordshire on July 10, 2009. He received the award for his contribution in helping sports journalism students at the university. He was also awarded the award at the University of Wales, Newport on April 15, 2013. Pulis participated in the 2009 London Marathon to raise money for the Donna Louise Trust, which assists a children's hospice. He completed the marathon in 4 hours 31 minutes 57 seconds. In May 2010, Pulis climbed to the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro with Nick Hancock to raise money for the Stoke-on-Trent-based charity the Donna Louise Trust. In March 2012, he escaped a driving ban for speeding after his lawyer claimed that the city of Stoke-on-Trent would suffer as a result. On May 31, 2012, Pulis was an Olympic torchbearer for the 2012 Summer Olympics. Pulis is a Catholic and regularly attends church. His mother died on September 13, 2010, the same day that Stoke had a Monday night fixture against Aston Villa. Pulis made an unexpected return to the dugout after the half-time break, having missed the first half, amidst huge applause from the home crowd. At this time Villa were 1-0 up, but goals from Kenan Jones and Robert Huth gave Stoke a 2-1 win and their first points of the season. Career statistics, as a player, sourced from the English National Football Archive. As a manager, as of match played on May 11, 2014. Honours, as a player, Bournemouth, Football League 3rd Division winner, 1986 Euro 87, as a manager, Gillingham, Football League 3rd Division runner-up, 1995 Euro 96, Football League 2nd Division playoff final runner-up, 1999, Stoke City, Football League Championship runner-up, 2007 Euro 08, FA Cup runner-up, 2010 Euro 11, Crystal Palace, Premier League Manager of the Month, April 2014, Premier League Manager of the Season, 2013-14, references. External links, Tony Pulis Management Career Stats at Soxerbase, points are the prizes for Stoke boss Tony Pulis. BBC Sport blog on Tony Pulis.